In a previous video, we have already talked about the definition of argumentative writing, but just quickly to review, in argumentative writing, a writer takes a position or expresses an opinion on usually a controversial topic, a current event, or some debate that's particular or important to their field of study. We also learned that the strength of an argumentative essay depends not only on having a very clear claim or thesis statement, but also on how the writer supports that claim with facts, examples, statistics, as well as their own commentary about how the support upholds or connects to their thesis. What you're looking at on the screen is an example of a student model. And we're going to take a look at some of the pieces in this student model so that you can get a sense of what a strong argumentative research essay looks like. In fact, you can think about this essay as a model, right? If you want an A plus on this assignment, this is what your paper should look like. So let's start off by examining the introduction and thinking about how that sets the essay up for success. So we begin with a title, a call to action, regulate the use of cell phones on the road. Even with that even with that title, we get a sense of what the writer's position is going to be and what the topic is going to be, right? She is probably going to be telling us that there needs to be greater rules or restrictions on cell phone usage. Let's go through the rest of the introduction. When a cell phone goes off in the classroom or at a concert, we're irritated, but at least our lives are not endangered. When we're on the road, however, irresponsible cell phone users are more than irritating. They are putting our lives at risk. There's your hook. We're beginning with a short kind of anecdote that draws the reader in. We've all had that experience of being in class with the cell phone going off. Luckily, we have not all been in the situation with a distracted driver and cell phones. So setting up that comparison there serves as an interesting hook. We're going to move into the background information now. Many of us have witnessed drivers so distracted by dialing and chatting that they resemble drunk drivers, weaving in between the lanes, for example, nearly running pedestrians down in crosswalks. A number of bills to regulate the use of cell phones on the road have been introduced in state legislators, and the time has come to push for their passage. There's your background. Now we're going to move into the thesis statement. Regulation is needed because drivers using phones are seriously impaired and because laws on negligent and reckless drivers are not sufficient to punish offenders. Now, I think the writer does something really interesting here. They've made a strong claim so we know what side they're on, right? They say regulation is needed, it's necessary. And then they kind of sketch out the two main points that they're going to make in their essay. The first main point is that cell phone use in driving causes impairment. And she's going to prove that through a couple of different paragraphs. And then the second major point that she's going to make is that the laws that already exist aren't good enough. They don't punish people enough, and so they don't deter people from talking on the phone and driving. Let's move into her first couple of body paragraphs and see how her topic sentence, as well as her support, helps to uphold or connect to that thesis. No one can deny that cell phones have caused traffic deaths and injuries. Cell phones were implicated in 3 fatal accidents in November 1999 alone. Early in November, 2-year-old Morgan Pina was killed by a driver distracted by his cell phone. Morgan's mother, Patty Pina, reports that the driver ran a stop sign at 45 miles, broadsided my vehicle, and killed Morgan as she sat in the car seat. A week later, corrections officers Shannon Smith, who was guarding prisoners by the side of the road, was killed by a woman distracted by a cell phone. On Thanksgiving weekend that month, John and Carol Hall were killed when a naval officer or Navy Academy midshipman crashed into their parked car. The driver said in court that when he looked up from a cell phone he was dialing, he was 3 feet from the car and had no time to stop. Now I want to stop there because here we have a very clear topic sentence. The topic sentence reads, cell phones have caused traffic deaths. And then we really get 3 examples in that paragraph. We get the example of Morgan Pina. We get the example of Shannon Smith. And then we get the example of John and Carol. And then each example, we're not just listing them, like Morgan was killed, Shannon was killed, John and Carol were killed. We're then giving details that help to illustrate how their deaths happened and how those deaths were connected to cell phone use. Now, I want to point out that this paragraph not only uses research, because we have the in-text citations that show the author has researched these examples. That's indicated by the parenthetical citation to give the author's last name. But the writer has also used a lot of pathos in this paragraph, right? A 2-year-old girl, corrections officer, a young couple, right? The loss of these kinds of people really kind of tug at our heartstrings, especially the young girl. And I think that it's notable that the author decided to begin with Morgan, because her passing is probably the most shocking, probably the saddest, because she's so young. All right, let's continue on a bit. Expert testimony, public opinion, and even cartoons suggest that driving while phoning is dangerous. Here's our topic sentence. Francis Bentz, an expert on the relation between cell phones and accidents, estimates that between 450 and 1,000 crashes a year have connections to cell phone use. In a survey published by Farmers Insurance Group, 87% of those polled said cell phones affect drivers' ability, and 40% reported having those calls with drivers distracted by phones. Many cartoons have depicted the very real dangers of driving while distracted. See Figure 1. So we'll pause there again. Again, let's re-examine the topic sentence. Even expert testimony, public opinion, and cartoons suggest that driving while phoning is dangerous. Okay, so the topic, driving while phoning is dangerous. We get the expert opinion of Francis Bentz, right? He tells us about the amount of accidents that have occurred. Then we get a survey, which shows us the public opinion, right? That's a survey that an insurance group has given to the general public. And they say that, yeah, driving and talking on the phone is distracting. And then finally, we get the idea that the political cartoon can sometimes suggest the very real dangers of driving. And down here it says see Figure 1. I want to spend a little bit of time talking about this, because in the past you were probably told you cannot use images inside an essay, especially not in college. And that's simply not true. If your image or graph or graphic in some way supports the argument that you're making, you can use a graphic as long as you talk about it and discuss how it is that graphic or graph upholds or supports your idea. So let's go ahead and find Figure 1. We're going to scroll down and find it. And here it is. The writer included the political cartoon in the essay. And it says we have a guy on his phone and he's looking at it, and there's a Mack truck coming headed their way. And it says, yep, I got my cell phone, my pager, my internet link, my wireless fax, and thanks to this nifty satellite navigating system, I know precisely where I am at all times, and yet he's not paying attention. When you do use an image like this in your writing, you have to format it in the way that you saw in the previous paragraph, right? So you discuss it first, and then you mention where to find it, find Figure 1. And then right underneath the image or the graphic, you're going to write Figure 1, and then you're going to add the full end text citation, right? Not just the author's last name, but the whole citation. And you're going to then want to comment on it underneath, right? Explain what it is that the image is showing and refer back to the previous paragraph. Anyway, as this essay continues on, you'll notice that each of the topic sentences and the supporting information always brings us back to this idea that cell phone use and driving needs greater regulation. I'm going to ask you to continue reading this essay on your own and look to the ways in which it was organized and supported as a model to strive for as you begin thinking about your own topic and your own research essay. Thanks.